and welcome to the Mac Gamecast, episode 49. I'm your host, Jon Carr, and with me today co-hosting is Casper. How you doing, sir?
Doing really well. Thank you. Nice being here.
Fantastic. Today, we are mostly going to be talking about Assassin's Creed Shadow from a variety of angles. A lot of hype there, just announced the other day. I think Thursday or something. And I guess there's some iPad update news, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there was an Apple event recently.
That's pretty cool.
Last week?
Is that the first M4 reveal, if I'm not mistaken?
It's the first M4 chip in the wild, yeah.
Pretty cool.
Big that it released on the iPad first and everything.
That's what I want to talk about a bit there. Honestly, I want to talk about that first. Otherwise, the Assassin's Creed thing will just take over my brain.
Yeah.
So give us the rundown, Casper, on the Apple event.
Yeah, so Apple event starts out, they do the thing they always do where they're like, let's just talk a bit about the state of the affairs, and then they jump straight into it, and it's like, well, there's new iPad Air. The iPad Air gets the M2, much like before, the iPad Air basically becomes the prior generation iPad Pro. It gets the mini LED I think it got the mini LED panel. Actually, now I'm doubting that. It didn't get ProMotion at least, but I think it got the mini LED on both the 11 and 13 inch. It got the M2 chip, got some rearrangement to the camera. So the front-facing camera is now in the landscape position, just like on the 10th gen iPad. You get a new Apple Pencil option. You get the new Magic Keyboard and stuff.
Nice.
Pretty sure it's compatible with the new stuff for the peripherals that got renounced for the iPad Pro. But basically, the iPad Air becomes the last gen iPad Pro with some things removed, like ProMotion. Real star of the show was the iPad Pro. Apple, in my opinion, very hyperbolically said it was the biggest iPad update ever, and I'm just sitting there like, no, it isn't. It's a little bit thinner. It weighs a little bit less. It was already ludicrously thin, but they've done things to increase the structural rigidity. So even though it's thinner, it's about the same in terms of how easily it bends and durability and stuff. There's like a metal cowling on the inside. The Apple logo has like copper on the inside for heat dissipation and all these sorts of things.
Right.
But the big thing is basically like it's a little thinner. It's got an M4 chip now. First time we're seeing the M4 chip. It sounds like, based on both performance benchmarks I've seen and the way Apple talked about it, like it's basically the same GPU as in the M3, but maybe it's like clocked 100 megahertz faster or something than you would clock an M3 in a fanless device like an Air or like a MacBook Air or an iPad, right? And then a brand new CPU, both the P cores and the E cores in the CPU, and faster memory. So we're going from LPDDR5 to LPDDR5X in the memory department, which is about a 20% bandwidth improvement in memory. But yeah, it's really mainly on the CPU side. GPU remains about the same, but with improved bandwidth and maybe clocked a bit higher. Going to a new manufacturing node, N3B instead of N3E instead of N3B. All just a bit, mumbo jumbo tech stuff, but it's faster. It's the main takeaway, and it's very efficient. Nice. And yeah, they've improved the cooling inside of the iPad, dissipating it more throughout the chassis. So you can have, even though the iPad is thinner, it actually cools it better. So you get better sustained performance, not just from the fact that it's a faster chip, but also from the fact that it can run continuously at a faster clock rate. So improvements all around on that. And if you go to Apple's page for the new iPad Pro, on the website, you can see that they market the M4 chip actually with Assassin's Creed, not Shadows, but Mirage. So they're pushing the game playing capabilities of the new iPad in that aspect. And also Pro apps like the Final Cut Pro got an update, Logic Pro got an update, that sort of thing. And of course, the neural engine gets a big boost in the M4 chip. Yeah. And then another big star of the show is the fact that it's equipped with a tandem OLED display where we have two OLED panels on top of each other, and there's like a display controller in the M4 chip that takes into account like compensating for each other's potential drift and stuff to produce the image and allow for brightnesses up to 1600 nits, same as the mini LED in peak brightness. and sustained brightness is 1000 nits, and that's now both HDR and SDR, where before you could only reach the brightness in HDR. Full OLED iPad display. Awesome technology. I was actually out seeing the iPads for myself today in an Apple authorized reseller.
Nice.
Yeah. The technology is awesome. It's a cool panel. It looks great. But honestly, like, to my mind, it's, if you already have a mini LED display, it's not like it's a huge day and night improvement. It looks better.
Right.
The colors look better. It's obvious that it's brighter. You can reach much greater brightness levels. At least, sustained SDR. Peak and sustained HDR is the same as the mini LED. And there's not that blooming effect that some people complained about on the mini LED. But it's not like you're going to look at it and go, wow, it's so different, so unique. So, yeah. Right. To my mind, at least, it's just iterative on top of the mini LED. But it is an improvement, and it's nice. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. New Apple Pencil Pro with some... they call it barrel roll. It basically just nose rotation, but they call it barrel roll.
It sounds cool.
And it sounds cool. And new Magic Keyboard with more of a MacBook-like feel in the materials, more aluminium on the top, bigger trackpad, function keys, minor little iterative improvements. Not compatible with the old iPads. They've removed the magnets around and stuff. So yeah, if you got the new iPad, you need the new accessories. If you got the old iPad, you can't use the new accessories.
Ye olde accessory.
I mean,
wars,
there's good reason for it if you look at the tech side of things, because they had to, for the Pencil, they had to move the magnets and the charging stuff quite a lot around to make room for the ability that you can now squeeze the Apple Pencil and that sort of thing to facilitate effectively the same thing as the double tap on it before, but now with more menus and stuff. And there's like a little tactile motor and stuff in there, same as the Force Touch trackpad and stuff.
Right.
That requires some rearranging of things in the Pencil. And then because they moved the camera into the landscape position as well, they had to move some things around up there. So it makes sense that they had to move things around, and it's not compatible with the old stuff. But as well as the keyboard, the hinge mechanism and stuff is slightly different to facilitate putting it, I think, further up and back to make room for the function keys and stuff. So there are some good justifications for the design changes, but as well, I can see it being annoying if you have the old iPad and you wanted the new accessories, but it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. There's some other like adjacent Apple news before we get into more Assassin's Creed stuff. What is it I saw? I guess iOS 18 is showing up soon, but also, what was it? Apple Vision Pro is preparing to launch in a bunch of other countries now.
Yeah, I've heard UK,
Australia,
Canada, and Australia.
Canada, China, France, Germany, Japan, Singapore, South Korea, and the UK.
That was a few more than I'd heard.
I'm looking at the list right now. So no launch date yet, but it's expected to happen after WWDC. So, or at least they'll announce it then. But
right.
Presumably, like shortly thereafter.
Regarding iOS 18, they've actually already confirmed some features for iOS 18. Okay. Because it's Worldwide Accessibility Day, so they announced the accessibility features coming in iOS 18 early.
I was wondering about that. Okay.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff actually. Like you can now use, or you're going to be able to use iOS devices purely with your eyes.
Ooh.
No touch, no nothing. Wow. Just you look at it.
Wow.
It's pretty neat, and there's some like cool stuff for deaf people using Vision Pro, where they can get like text bubbles over people of transcribing what they say and stuff.
Oh, that is so cool, honestly.
It's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
I'm a bit unclear if the text bubbles like can track the people, or if it's just like you get a single text bubble that is all of what's being said anywhere around you. But
right,
hopefully it's the former, because that would be super cool.
It makes me think of like The Witcher 3, or I guess even 2, when you walk around and there's little like text bubbles above all the NPCs' heads as you go by them, like with their conversations. Yeah. Though this is cooler than that. I wonder about the eye tracking thing. It must the front facing camera must be watching you. It's the only
it's based on the front facing camera, and the like Face ID system, I assume, is involved. Right. And then it's using the switch control kind of mechanism that was already in there for single input usage, where if you dwell, like you can look around, but then as soon as you dwell on something for a set amount of time that you can adjust, it'll trigger that item. So yeah.
Right.
Which also means that you can't spend too long reading something or you'll start selecting text. Don't dwell on a word. Look away.
Yeah. Yeah, there was some rumors about like an iPhone 17 or the next SE, and I'm not super interested in discussing that because it's all inevitable. It all comes out anyway. It's not like, will it or won't it? It's just like, well, it's coming eventually, and there'll be all the official news. There's no real need to like speculate or rumor mill about it, in my opinion. So.
I also think from the perspective of, iOS devices, iPad, whatever, all that jazz, I think as people who are interested in Macs and Mac gaming, at least like the most interested in. Yeah. I also have an interest in the other stuff, but it's mainly the Mac side, right?
Exactly.
The most interesting aspect of all that is when we get things like the M4 chip in the iPad here first, and we can look at that and make assumptions about what's going to happen to the Mac lineup when that gets M4 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because on that note, like I've been thinking a while if we're going to get an M3 Ultra or M3 Extreme, given that the M3 Max didn't have the Ultra Fusion bridge and what was going to happen on the hardware front with the M3 lineup. But at this point, it seems pretty clear that the M3 lineup stops at the M3 Max, and the Mac Studio, the Mac Pro, they're going to have to wait on the M4 lineup getting to that tier, and they're not getting anything on M3. They're getting M4 Ultra and M4 Extreme or whatever.
Right, for sure. Yeah, what I'm interested in is sort of switching again to the gaming stuff again. Obviously more M4s, presumably, the best whenever they release it in a Mac anyway. It'll be, the latest and greatest thing for, Mac gaming. Doesn't the M3 already support ray tracing, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, ray tracing was introduced with M3.
That's what I thought. Because, for example, the next Assassin's Creed game. So when I say the next Assassin's Creed game, that's kind of an odd thing because Assassin's Creed Mirage hasn't released on Mac yet, but it is on iOS, I think, or iPad.
Yes,
maybe?
And I'm starting to think it won't come to Mac.
Exactly.
I'm starting to think we get this weird split where Assassin's Creed Mirage is on the iOS devices, and Shadows, based on the current App Store listing, it sounds like it's only coming to the Mac, but then there was a weird phrasing where they didn't say coming to Mac, they said coming to Apple platforms.
On the official page, it specifically like on ubisoft.com/blah blah Assassin's Creed Shadows, under platforms it says Mac OS. That's all it says.
Okay, fair enough.
But funny enough, when you click on it, instead of going to like the App Store, it just goes to apple.com/Mac.
Oh, that's weird.
I was just checking it out because it's like, Epic Game Store goes to Epic Game Store, Xbox goes to Xbox. So, that was my thought earlier today. I was out mowing the lawn, probably TMI, whatever. And I was thinking about this, and I'm like, you know what? I don't think Mirage is coming to Mac for a couple of reasons. Honestly, the main reason is because it didn't do very well on the PC and the console. It was a mid-tier Assassin's Creed game, which is not a bad game, but it's not a good game. Like, oh man, we gotta get this out there. People are just gonna eat it up. Now, on beggars can't be choosers sort of Mac gaming thing. Sure, some people might get it, but it's a mid-tier Assassin's Creed game, and I would argue, as someone who's a pretty big fan of the franchise, it should have never been made because there was no reason for it to exist. Like, oh, where have we seen Middle Eastern guy running around stabbing people before? Oh, Assassin's Creed 1. Oh, Assassin's Creed Revelations. Like, okay, I guess that was Ezio, but he was off in the Middle East or something. I feel like it's a game that already existed twice and didn't do anything to justify something new. Like Assassin's Creed 3, you're a Native American out in the wilderness, like pretty dang cool. Assassin's Creed Syndicate, oh, you're playing twin gangsters in like London. Oh, that's new. Or the later ones, of course, morphed the series much more into action RPGs, but like, oh, you're in Greece or you're in Egypt or you're a Viking. Like, this is cool stuff. Assassin's Creed Mirage was like, fans wanted more stealthy Assassin's Creed. They're like, there was this dude who showed up for no reason in the middle of like northern Norway Vikings. Like two Bedouins showed up in the literal like ice capped mountains of the Viking Northlands. I played Valhalla. It's like, these guys are so out of place. What are they even doing here? And they're like, I know, we can make a whole game about this guy. It's like, he was, no offense, the character was pretty forgettable and just whatever. Like, he wasn't like, oh man, I really want to know his backstory. Like, I just can't wait. It's like, no. Sorry. So I think his name was no, Bayek was the Egyptian guy. I forget his name. Anyway, not hating on the character, but just I don't think there was much of a reason for Mirage to exist. And
Hmm.
you go to Metacritic, it's got like a 72. So it's not a bad game. It's like a 7 out of 10 game. It's like it's
Hmm.
fine, but it doesn't do
I
anything
mean,
special.
I think relative to a lot of games that exist on iPad and iPhone, is going to be great.
Yes.
Especially if you can like put it on your big screen TV with an adapter and play it with
Yes.
a game controller, and that's all you have. One of the best games on iPad, probably.
Probably. Yes, everything's relative. I do agree it'll probably be a phenomenal iOS game. I still wouldn't play a game of that scale. It
Yes,
is a
same.
smaller, old, like quote unquote, old school Assassin's Creed game where you don't have like an enormous, crazy world and bases to build and all this kind of
Mm.
stuff. It's more of like a one city. I think you're in Turkey or something. I sorry if I get that wrong, or Constantinople, maybe something like that. It's like one city, smaller scale, run around, stab
Mm.
people. So more like old school Assassin's Creed, basically.
Yeah.
So switching to more, yeah. So, but on the Mac side, with the news, especially that Assassin's Creed Shadows is now coming, I think it's November 24th. Everything indicates it's a same day release for Mac on the Mac App Store only. It
Hmm.
does not appear to be coming to Steam. Mirage was also not on Steam. Ubisoft, all these big companies, publishers like Flip Flop, like we're on Steam, we're off Steam. EA is like we're not on Steam. They go back and forth, because of course they want to promote their own platforms. I think it's Ubisoft Play or Ubisoft Connect. I'm kind of unclear exactly what it's called.
I know for a fact, at least, that they have a thing they call Ubisoft Plus, which is, I think, like a subscription thing similar
Oh
to
god,
Game
yes,
Pass, where
yeah,
you can get it like 3 days early or something.
yeah. You're right. I think there's actual platform. I had it pulled up here. Ubisoft Connect, I think, is the overall platform. Ubisoft Plus
Right,
is
which
like
is
the
a
subscription
sequel to
thingy.
Uplay as
Yes.
well as this whole thing. Yeah.
So, it's not very good, much like, EA's Origin and whatever. Like, it's tolerable. It's not great. I remember using it way back, even in like playing it's reviewing, I think it was like Settlers 7 or something for Inside Mac Games, and I
Mm.
had to do all this annoying like login Uplay stuff. Um,
Yeah.
I actually like Ubisoft. I like most of their games. Arguably, they're a little copy paste these days. Not gonna lie. But this is why I'm excited for Shadows. It's interesting because it's kind of a return to form in some ways, with the emphasis on the shinobi female character. I don't know what to say her name exactly. Naoe, Naoe, I think it's spelled. She's like the Japanese
Now, yeah, I
ninja
guess, yeah.
character in the game, and she's heavily featured. She's like always in front of all the promotional art. Basically, like they're emphasizing this side of the game, like
Mm.
ninja, really cool stealth. You can go prone, and you've got like a neat grappling hook that isn't like a zip line. It's like a real like physics driven grappling hook, apparently, which sounds cool.
Mm.
And she has all sorts of like neat ninja stealth tricks to creep around, like kind of like how you might expect to play Assassin's Creed. But it's
Mm.
still the bigger, like open worldy, semi open world Assassin's Creed, and you have a base to build up. So it's like combining sort of some of the modern day Assassin's Creed stuff, because you also have like upgrade trees and everything, with like an emphasis, at least for that character, on like much more old school Assassin's Creed stealth, but with like extra stealth emphasis. Guards apparently have things like their patrols will change based on the seasons. There's like a year round weather and all this stuff. So
Mm.
they also said you can play most missions as either the Shinobi girl or Yasuke. I believe I'm saying that right, the samurai character. I'm not so
Mhm.
fond of him. We already talked about this a bit on Discord. Correction, I'm not. It's not that I'm not fond of him. I actually think he's a very cool character. I'm just not fond of them putting. I would have preferred another Japanese character as like the co-protagonist. That's all. It's kind of like I've been dreaming of an Assassin's Creed Japan for like. There was rumors of this back in like 2010 or 11. So like 10,
Mm.
15 years almost. It's been like, ooh, Assassin's Creed Japan. I just think Assassin's Creed set in Japan, especially called Shadows, should be completely about like Japanese people, and maybe all about ninjas rather than like kind of shoehorning in this African samurai guy who's like big and bulky and not very stealthy and is mostly like the bruiser. He's there.
Mm.
If you were to compare, the closest thing is probably Syndicate, where you had Eve and I think Jacob. Jacob was like the brawler and Eve was like the stealthier, stabbier one. Um, but to me, that made more sense because, well, they're both from London and they're siblings, and there was more like sort of an interesting dynamic there. I do think there's a very interesting story to tell with Yasuke. I just wish he had his own game rather than being, in my opinion, sort of inserted into this one. I could be wrong. Maybe it's done brilliantly and it's like a really cool character arc, and maybe they have a really interesting dynamic together as like frenemies or whatever. I don't know what's going on there. Could be
Yeah,
amazing.
the impression I got from the trailer was that it was going to be like we are enemies, but we like recognize a bigger threat, or one of them going
Right.
like, I was probably wrong by joining this fight on this side, or something like that, and then becoming enemies, but perhaps a bit reluctantly on something like that.
Yeah. So there's like a three odd minute. It's not a gameplay trailer. It's a CGI trailer. It's honestly
Yeah.
cool. It's well done. Um, so Yasuke is a real historical character. Ubisoft always takes great liberties with their characters. I mean, Assassin's Creed
Yeah.
2, you're fist fighting the Pope in a cellar or a basement or whatever the heck it is. It gets ridiculous. Or you're running around George Washington like climbing cliffs or something in ancient
Yeah.
Korea or whatever the heck it was. So I know it gets ridiculous. It's just I feel like he's too incongruous with the game, especially when the emphasis is on the shadows and the stealth,
But
not
but that's
the
the thing.
samurai
I'm
thing.
not sure it's supposed to be the exclusive emphasis. Like, my impression of it is that they sort of want to merge what Assassin's Creed used to be with what it's become, and the Shinobi girl represents the old style of Assassin's Creed, and the samurai Yasuke represents the Valhalla style or the Odyssey style
Right,
of,
just
it's
run in
more,
and beat people up.
yeah, more action combat than stealthy, sneaky combat,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
I feel like they sort of want to cater to two camps at the same time, and that can really go in two different ways, because either they nail both sides and make a game that is, better than either part standing alone, because you have so many opportunities at everything, right? Or they make both parts less than they could have been if they'd focused on them
Well,
exclusively.
that's what I'm worried about. I do agree with you, and I think they even said in an interview, I think it's with IGN, they said exactly. They're like, this is the stealthy girl, this is the like modern actiony RPG style character with Yasuke. And they're
Yeah.
like, it's just my personal bias. I want the game to be more focused, and I am concerned they're gonna trying to do both. They're gonna either one will either suffer or both will suffer, depending.
Yeah.
That being said, the combat in Valhalla was very fun. It was very good. One of the better action games I've played, honestly. There was lots of options. You had tons of cool tools. You had all kinds of fun upgrades. The combat was fairly dynamic. But I guess I just don't want that out of Assassin's Creed Shadows, I guess, is my issue.
I mean, personally, I haven't played an Assassin's Creed game since. Well, I played a little bit of Black Flag, but I hadn't really touched the series since Revelation. So I mostly have experience with that old stabby game.
Yeah.
And it's also what appeals the most to me. So I think for that reason, I am mainly drawn to the Shinobi playstyle and being the shadow, right?
Yeah.
But having not really played with the other Assassin's Creed games, I am curious if like the novelty of that playstyle might be more interesting when I actually get my hands on it, because I've done the other thing. I haven't done the Yasuke thing yet because I've skipped those games. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's just my contention again. It's nothing like, why'd they put a black man in here? I don't care about that. Although I do think it's slightly ironic. He's historically the only guy in Japan, and he's part of like a stealth game. It's like it's a little hard to be stealthy when you're literally the only like person in the country of your ethnicity. Everyone knows where you are all the time. But it's just there's so many cool samurai characters. I just wanted like a pure deep dive into like Japanese stuff and history and culture or whatever, rather than sort of like, surely there's all sorts of cool samurai stories you could have come up with. They could have. I understand why they didn't do like maybe another sibling thing or whatever, like they already did in Syndicate. They did like a husband and wife in the Egyptian one, not Odyssey. That's the Greek one. Forget the name of it. Origins. We have brother sisters. Now it's like, I don't know. I would have liked a different dynamic. And they already said, oh, well, we can't have the same one character. Like the reason why they didn't just make one protagonist, like say Valhalla or Odyssey and so on, is because they said, well, a samurai and a ninja would never be the same character because they come from like different classes of society and backgrounds and skills. And maybe that's true. I don't know if I really agree with it, considering all the liberties they're taking with the game and history. Otherwise, anyway, like, couldn't you have just made one person, like made this girl the main character? And or honestly, I would have. I guess it's like my problem is because I love Valhalla because I like Viking stuff, and most people do. But the game was bloated. It was really bloated. It was too big. It was too long. There was too much you could do. And I'm a little concerned. This is why I'm also concerned about Shadows. I think they're saying all the right things, but like the game still has to come out, and it's out, I think, whatever, several months from now. It's also a $70 game now. It's pretty expensive on launch. It'll go on sale later.
Well, Mac Store release might not.
Yeah, that's true. I was just hoping they would sort of trim the fat and really focus. And, okay, it's true, maybe not on PC, but no, it is on PC. Maybe not on Mac, but talking about the broader game, like console and whatever. We already have Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and Ghosts of Tsushima, and so many like samurai, Japanesey things that are all about sitting there. And they even allude to this. Oh, you can break their armor and do these combos. It's like, it sounds like you're just describing several other games I just mentioned, but you're just shoehorning it into this game. So it's like, okay, we don't have these games on Mac, but plenty of other people have already played them on PC and console, like to death. I don't know. I just wish
Sekiro ran absolutely beautifully through some translation stuff well, though. But
I mean, native Mac, of course, there's other ways.
Sure. But like Sekiro is a shinobi game.
That's true.
You do play as a shinobi. They do the shinobi prosthetics or the names of your weapons and stuff.
Right.
And while you definitely can go very aggressive combat, there is a definitive stealth aspect to the game as well that you can interact with.
Okay. Just everything I've seen was always like face-to-face swordplay dueling stuff.
Right. I think because a lot of people coming from the Souls games played Sekiro, they tend to, have the, I'll just fight mentality, right? But there was a lot of stealth mechanics in it as well. And funny though, because the Assassin's Creed Shadows is the name of the Assassin's Creed game, and the tagline or the subtitle or whatever for Sekiro was "Shadows Die Twice." So they seem to be inspiring each other or something.
They may be able to pull it off. The "Have your cake and eat it too" saying, but I am a little. So like all the Assassin's Creed games have stealth. Even Odyssey, the Greek one where you're a Spartan, and Valhalla, but the combat was so much more fun and effective. There was basically never any reason to go stealth because you're a Viking, superhuman, or you're a Spartan superhuman dude. And you just run around. I mean, when you think of Spartans and Vikings, you don't think of like stealthy dude hiding in a rafter, like gonna get the jump on you. You're like, what? No, you kick in the front door. It's like the guns blazing approach in an FPS versus like the stealthy kind of a thing. So it's true. There are games that I think do both well. For example, I think the Deus Ex games do it pretty well. They are stealth emphasized, but guns blazing is honestly pretty dang good, in my opinion. Those are older references, but they were on Mac back in the day, so it can be done.
I personally think it's cool in concept. I like what I've seen of the characters. I don't have any issues with that on any front, but I do agree that in general, I would like more focus in games. I would like them to have more of a singular purpose rather than trying to do everything and doing everything less well than if they just focused on doing one thing super well. So
that's more my bias. That's where I'm coming from. I don't want the game to appeal to everyone. It's like just narrow the focus a bit, I do like the direction they're taking the Assassin's Creed games. They've definitely I do think stuff like Valhalla and Odyssey, I didn't play Origins, I played Odyssey and Valhalla. I think they're incredible games, but they're terrible Assassin's Creed games.
Right.
Like they shouldn't be called Assassin's Creed whatever. They're their own like separate thing.
Like at this point, I'm honestly looking a bit at the Assassin's Creed franchise, and I feel it's become a bit like what Final Fantasy is, where it's Final Fantasy and then a number, but it doesn't mean anything with relation to what Final Fantasy as a series. It's just a new game that just bears that name, right?
Right. Yeah, it's like they're stuck with the IP because what are they going to create a spin-off with a totally different name? And it's like, what do you mean? It's just the same thing. So I understand that they have to do it, but it's almost kind of silly because, like you just said, there's basically no relation. I do like the direction they're going in. I did say Mirage was like an unnecessary game to make, but maybe they needed to make it to kind of reset themselves. Like, let's actually do more stealth stuff. Maybe internally they had to make it. I just don't think there was any demand in the market for it. And I think that showed. It didn't sell very well. It wasn't very reviewed very well, whatever.
But that might be a very negative thing with respect to the whole resetting themselves internally, because maybe they're then looking at that and going, well, that's not what people wanted.
I almost feel like, this is obviously speculation, but like maybe that played into. But of course, like, oh, we need to have a samurai guy in here to, attract these kind of things. But no, if they can do a similar combat level to something like Valhalla, but obviously translated into samurai thing. He's got his big heavy armor. He's got a samurai sword, a bow, and I think he can use maybe a few other things.
Mm.
Seems cool. There's a lot of shinobi tools. It does say you can play most missions as whatever character you want. But once again, that's sort of design philosophy where it's designed for, well, you can just run around and hit everything in the face and raise all the alarms,
Mm.
or you could sneak in. It's like some developers can pull that off, but some can't. So, like, once again, I'm a little concerned from a design perspective where it's like any character can do any mission. It's like, well, yes, but is it going to be as good as if you just designed it for one? Maybe it
Yeah, yeah.
is. It
Is
could
there
be.
like it's fun to do it with this character, and it's possible to do it with this
Yeah.
character?
So
Yeah.
yeah, I would love nothing more than to be proven completely wrong on all of this. And the game is a total blast to play as either character, and it's like balanced and
Mm.
cool, and both characters can get all their cool moments and neat skills and approaches and whatever. But they have been emphasizing it in all the marketing, outside the trailer at least. All the photos, she's in the front. Most of the imagery is her. Most of the discussion is about her first. So I am hoping, honestly, if the game is going to be lopsided, it's in her favor.
Mm.
And like, if one of them has to suffer, I hope it's a samurai portion
Mm.
because I want that to shine. Like we have so many action RPGs. And then you could say there was a time we've had tons of stealth games as well, whether it's the old Splinter Cell series, or I don't think we ever got Metal. I guess we got some Metal Gears on PC and all sorts of indie stealth games and all side scrollers, top down, whatever. They're always
Mm.
coming out. But there's something uniquely fun about the Assassin's Creed stealth, the Assassin's Creed fantasy. That is, to me, I guess magical is the wrong word. I mean, I guess, yeah, I love simulate running around stabbing people. That's
Mm.
but like the social stealth and blending in with crowds and escaping guards and like that's fun. I like that.
Mm.
It's like challenging, and they do seem to be bringing that back with this. They already said, again, I can't pronounce her name now. I'll just call her the Shinobi girl. She's not supposed to fight guards head on, and she's not good in direct fights. Like, she's basically meant to run away, and that's how Assassin's Creed used to be, going back to like Altair and stuff. Even changed.
Yeah.
Even in AC2 and 3, you became like a guard murder machine.
Yeah.
But in AC1, it was like really hard to fight a couple guards. It was like, oh dang, I got to get out of here.
Yeah. You
So
could take one head on, but like two
Yeah.
or three, run away.
Exactly. So they seem to be bringing that back from everything they're talking about in the interviews and stuff with playing as the shinobi. So I'm like, fantastic. Now I am a little curious how they're going to implement this, because if I'm not mistaken, in Syndicate you could just switch out any time between Eve and Jacob. Like, one would just like, see you later, and like, peace out. I think Eve would use her grappling hook to like zip away, and Jacob would just run in. So it's like, can you be in the middle of a mission and just essentially like tab between characters, and suddenly Yasuke's there in the middle of the camp or something? I don't know. I hope it's more like...
Based on what I see in the trailer, I think you can do that, because there's a bit in the trailer where they are both like basically co-op or team tagging a single kill or something. And
okay,
the person goes like, "Who are you?" And they're like, "We are the shadows." Like,
that
shifting
was
who
the
says what.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like that's an indication that, while you are attacking a single character, you can probably hit some button combination and do like a team kill that instantly switches you over to the other character as the other one flees or something.
Right. Sort of, yeah. Now, I don't want Assassin's Creed to become like a co-op multiplayer game, although this kind of thing kind of makes me wish it was. Like, maybe you do have someone who's a samurai and someone who's the shinobi, like attacking a camp or doing a mission. Like, that could be interesting. But, I mean, AC's done multiplayer in the past. Honestly, I thought it was quite fun, because it combined social stealth with like hidden kills and some direct confrontations. And it was really fun. Way old Assassin's Creed. I think they phased it out. I don't even know if they do multiplayer anymore.
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah.
But kind of like how Black Flag was a pirate simulator more than an Assassin's Creed game, I wish Assassin's Creed Shadows would basically be a shinobi/ninja simulator more than an Assassin's Creed game. That's why that's basically complaining about, like, what's with this all this samurai stuff. But it does sound like you can ignore most of it, or even maybe it's being overshadowed, pun not intended, by the shinobi stuff. So it's they did already confirm some other details I think IGN again has a thing like 40 things to know about Assassin's Creed Shadows. You will have a base to build up, like in Valhalla, and I don't remember if you get one in Odyssey. I think it was a ship and stuff in those games. So you will have like a base or castle or something some to build up. Honestly, that was pretty fun in Valhalla, so I don't hate that. There's going to be changing seasons. I don't know how dynamic that'll be. I already mentioned that. There will be multiple regions with different, whatever, flora, fauna, people, guard types, enemies, and all that kind of stuff. That's cool. I'm a little unclear on what the story is, honestly, other than the assassin girl or the shinobi girl, like samurai jerks killed her village and her family or something, and then she's out for revenge. This is also kind of my contention with Yasuke. Historically, like if you're going to bother putting a historical character, I know they always take liberties, but he was a, what do you call it, a retainer or a page, a samurai type person for, I think it's, oh my god, I'm going to get his name wrong. Not Nabunoga or Nabugata. I'm butchering that. I'm paraphrasing it. Historically, he was there and he took an interest in him and took him under his wing for some years before he was defeated or something. So I guess it's like, once again, I would rather just have a game with him over there doing something else. Like, how does he fit it? I guess in my headcanon is this is her story and he's showing up into it, but like how and why? I understand sort of her motive.
We're
but
gonna
like,
have to wait and see because like there's no speculation.
Yeah. That's it is. Yeah. It's like, but who is like? Is he running around once again as the only black man in Japan at that time, like trying to overthrow the country with her, like or the shogun, or like what's going on? Why is he there? I don't get it. So I'm again a little like biased.
I mean, the only thing that the trailer really said from the story perspective was something about unification. How many people must die in the name of unification or something?
Right.
And Yasuke going like, I was on the wrong side or something. And that's basically what we get, I think.
Well, right. That would play in because formally his role would have been basically, because I think that was his whole, oh my god, I need to look up his name. Oh, that did not work. Oda Nobunaga. Okay, and
that's the leader of Japan at the time, or what?
He was trying to unify it. So maybe that's the story. It's either concurrent or just after it, because he passed away. He got overthrown or defeated at some point. But I think he did rule a large portion. Maybe not. I don't know if it was all of Japan or whatever. But he was like a very successful warlord for some time. So. Yeah. Maybe sort of spitballing here, it's like just after that, and Yasuke's been freed from his service because his lord died and he's a Ronin or something now. And maybe he's now like, well, dang, I need to be like, uphold justice for the common people or something, and joins her or whatever. You know, I could see that being a thing. Yeah. And historically, sort of following pseudo historical events. That would make sense. Yeah.
I really just feel like it's sad that the animus and the whole future aspect and the like artifacts of Eden and fight with Templars and all that seems to have just disappeared from the franchise, because that was like my biggest hook back in the day with the original series. Yeah, I really liked it, but I get the feeling that most people just didn't care for it.
I liked it initially, like the first couple Assassin's Creed games, and I can't remember the name of the guy you played in like modern day. Desmond. I was going to say Esmond. I knew that was wrong. So Desmond.
Yeah, it does.
I liked his like 3-game arc, I think it was. But I kind of like, then I was like, I felt satisfied with that. I didn't really want it more. In Black Flag, it was minimized, which I think was correct because the pirate stuff was way more fun than whatever the modern day shenanigans were. I do honestly wish they would cut it out entirely. I wish it would just not even exist in the game, and you just played your cool historical like game as a ninja person. I wish they would just sort of transition.
But that's where the name and the franchise kicks it for me, because I'm sitting there thinking like, yeah, but then it's not Assassin's Creed anymore, and I know it hasn't really been for quite a while, right, like what it used to be initially and all that. But I feel like after Assassin's Creed 3 or something, they should have just gone right, and that's Assassin's Creed. Next game is going to be called Pirate Seas or something, and made. Yeah, I don't know.
I agree. I agree. They should have had like a new IP that I'm just spitballing a name, like it's historical fantasy pirates, and now we're in Egypt. Now we're in Greece. Now we're Vikings. Now we're Japanese shinobi samurai. Like the whole line of like historically set, games. I agree. I don't disagree with you. So I find the story interesting of it, like all the stuff you're talking about. and ultimately all these gods, especially Valhalla gets into it a lot, and they even include a couple characters from Odyssey, some of the gods and goddesses, because in that world the character, like the pantheons are real. Zeus
Yeah.
exists, and Odin and Thor, and like all these characters are actually real in the games. Um, and spoiler alert, Valhalla is a 4 to 5 year old game. You are playing your characters, not Odin. You're somebody. You're like a god who forgot who they are or something, and so is all these other characters around you. And that's like part of the game is uncovering, like, you keep having these weird dreams and stuff. Maybe you are Odin in Valhalla. I think actually you are. Anyway, like, it's pretty cool. The problem is the gameplay is never as fun as the immersion, the simulation. You're usually just walking around an office or talking to people or stealing a thing, or you're out in a cabin in the woods and you're on a computer and some dude's hacking a thing and oh no, the Templars. It's just like, it's not that it's uninteresting. It's just gameplay comparison. It's boring. And people are like if you could just go like skip, you would, to like, give me back to the cool stuff, being a pirate or a ninja.
I more just see it as an interactive cutscene though, and like I enjoy the narrative that I'm getting from it, and I don't care that it's not as fun to play as the main gameplay sections, because it's just, you're also not playing a cutscene, but you can enjoy getting the story out of it, right? And that's
right.
Yeah.
I kind of wish they would do more of a cutscene thing, and then I think I would mind it less. But it's a lot of like,
I wouldn't care if it was all cutscenes in the future stuff. I just want the future stuff.
Yeah, I don't disagree. My complaint is, personally, having played like Odyssey and Valhalla, is like, yeah, you're just walking around as your boring modern day third person self, guy, gal, whoever it is. And the last two, I think you were a lady in the present day. I forget her name, or two different ladies. Any case, and it's like, walk over here and press on the computer and walk outside and like drink your coffee and talk to this person. It's just like, yeah, make it a cutscene, or maybe pause on like Mass Effect style or something, like choose a dialogue option, whatever. But that I would be happy with. But the fact they kind of like put you in the regular game, like third person view, and like walk around and do like mundane stuff is generally uninteresting. There is usually some character talking, but it's usually, once again, like this massive exposition dump while you just sit there and wait and listen to it. So it's like, make it a cutscene. Then it would be fine. So we'll see what they do in Shadows. Obviously, it's always there, but I am curious as to what extent. They definitely are de-emphasizing it, for sure. But certain games emphasize it more than others. So we'll see what they do with Shadows. Yeah.
Definitely.
For sure. I think, sort of, now that we're done yakking / slightly ranting on my end about the game, like, what does this mean for Mac gaming? This is the cool thing. As you were just saying before, I wanted to actually go and look up, but I slightly late to the podcast, as you know. Like, when was the last time we actually got like a major simultaneous Mac game release? I mean, like, of like AAA, not indie game or AA or whatever. It's not even outside my memory. Was it like 2017, 18? I guess. Okay, let's not even say simultaneous. Let's just say a huge like industry, like a big game that matters to a lot of people in the gaming space. PC, Mac, console, whatever. The last game I can think of was like Borderlands 3, but that was 2019. The Mac port was not simultaneous.
I'm questioning.
Nor was it good, but it came like 3 months after the PC port. Pretty close.
That's definitely true. I think it was a bit after, but it was very close. But I'm not sure. Like games like Civilization and XCOM, were they simultaneous release or close to, or
very close, or maybe simultaneous? I'd have to go check.
I know that when Civilization gets updates, there's usually like a week between the Mac and the PC getting the update. Right. But I don't know if the initial release was like that or different, or
I don't remember. I mean, I played the heck out of XCOM 2. I feel
I do think it was like a week or two after release or something that the Mac got it.
Checking right here. Yep, simultaneous release, February 5th, 2016.
Okay, fair enough.
Linux, OS X, and Windows. So yeah, because back then Feral was doing like Linux and Mac OS simultaneous release in some cases. Yeah, I feel like it's basically been like 6-7 years since it's happened in a big way for like some of these games you just mentioned, like an XCOM or a Civilization, like a big game everyone's excited about.
But even then, like this is different because all those times it's been outsourced to Feral or in the past Aspire or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, but this time it's, as far as I can tell, made by Ubisoft themselves, perhaps with some Apple engineering involved and stuff. But it seems to be
Everything
first
points
party.
to it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Everything points to it being in house. Like you
yeah.
said, maybe there's some Apple support or got a few Apple people on the line.
Hmm.
So like the next question is, of course, what are system requirements? Well, other than saying Apple Silicon, we don't know. We don't know if you
We
need a
do know one
particular
thing.
version. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we do know one thing. It requires macOS 14.4 newer. So it's a very new release of macOS you need to have installed. That's a software requirement, of course, but
Ah,
yeah.
I didn't know.
There
I
must be
didn't.
like some metal features that got introduced very late or something.
So the latest Assassin's Creed games are very good looking on like high settings. They're not like melt your computer, like push it to the limits, like maybe a Cyberpunk or Crisis or whatever of its day. But they're very good looking games. So, but they do scale. Obviously, their engine is what do you call it? It's their own engine. I forget what
It's
it's called.
Unreal. It's based on Unreal.
Oh, it is now. Okay, my
Yeah.
bad. And the Unreal Engine has always scaled well, even back in like 1999
Hmm.
when it came out or whatever. So my question is like, is there going to be a minimum silicon machine to run it? And this is kind of the fun stuff we talked about even years ago. Like,
I actually think I've heard someone say, and I don't know if that was just like an unofficial offhand comment or a guess or whatever, but I've heard people say that it can run on the M1, like the base M1.
really?
Maybe you need 16 gigabytes of RAM or something, but at
I was
least
going to
like
say, like, I feel like there's got to be some, like, the absolute base first, like, no spec or low spec. I mean, M1, like, this could really run it. It seems like a little bit of
like running is one thing. Like, do you need to put it at all low 720p
right,
with
yeah,
upscaling? Like,
right,
it's not gonna look great if you have to do that to get it to run at like 30
right,
FPS or whatever. But I mean, if you can play it, I guess.
yeah. So heretical statement here on the Mac Gamecast. I'm likely to play the game on my PC, but I will definitely try it on the Mac.
Hmm.
I want to check out the performance. I guess I'd
Hmm.
have to buy it twice, but maybe I can get a review copy or something.
Yeah.
So I have my M1 Pro, 16 gigs of RAM. It's still an M1, but it's a Pro. Probably could run it okay. Upscaling does do a lot of heavy lifting these days in the gaming space, honestly, for your FPS. So interested to see that. But I'm mostly interested, and of course I don't have one, but like how well could it run on a crank, in a M3 Pro or whatever, M3 Max or
Hmm.
whatever it is, or heck, when an M4 comes out in the Mac side, can it like how comparable is it to a PC experience? I'm very
Hmm.
curious. Like, will they do enough tuning to get it amazing? I mean, by all accounts, stuff like RE Village and stuff was really well done.
Death
I haven't
Stranding is
tried
the
it.
best performance wise I've heard, and
Yeah, Death Stranding as well. So like this, I'm getting excited. This is
mm,
like I can see it on like we kept talking about on and off over the years. Like it's on the horizon, the light's coming. Well, it's like no, kind of the sun's kind of coming up.
yeah.
It's still dawn, but like oh hey, the sun's over there. It's like oh
Hmm.
very very interesting. So I really hope, even though Mac App Store only is like grown,
Hmm.
um, you just gotta accept it. It's also not even on Steam, so it's not like it's on Steam and only on the App Store. So what
Hmm.
I'm curious about is if you could go buy it. I'm not saying you should, but can you go buy it directly from Ubisoft Connect or Ubisoft Store, whatever it is? And does it have the Mac, binary there, or do you only buy it through the Mac App Store? I don't know.
Again, I'm not sure if this is a confirmed thing or just something I read online on some forum, but I have read somewhere, whether that's official or not, that the Mac release is only on the Mac App Store. And even if you have Ubisoft Plus with the 3-day early access and all the, it's supposed to be the best Ubisoft experience, you're not getting the Mac release. You have to buy that on the App Store.
Figures.
But that could again be, an indication that there's some partnership with Apple here, and Apple had some requirements, and they
Right.
have to adhere to that.
Sure.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's arguably not a bad thing. Once again, the Mac App Store comes installed in every computer. Steam does not. Only quote
Hmm.
unquote more serious gamers install Steam, I guess.
Hmm.
And like for all my gripes, or arguably our gripes on the show about like the Mac App Store, maybe this is the right way to do it, to push Mac gaming and to just get more bigger games into the hands of let's call them the masses of, I don't know if there is masses of Mac gamers, but if they were, all of them do have access to the Mac App Store. And I just opened it today. Huge banner, like full screen, giant. Assassin's Creed Shadow. It says coming soon. I'm like, it's not that soon. It's only May. June, July, August, September, October. It's 6 months out,
It does specify when you go into it, coming November, but yeah, it's not that soon.
I just found it funny, like coming soon. It's like, well, part of me is complaining, and you can echo your comments on pre-ordering or not in a moment here. But what's important to me is, once again, this isn't we released the PC version and suddenly, ta-da, here's the Mac version. Like, wait, what? When? Why? How? Okay, cool, I guess, but I had no idea it was coming. That's kind of been the MO for a long time, even when we get bigger games. Again, Borderlands 3. I don't think they announced it. I think they just released it and then made a tweet or something like, here you go. It's like, wait, huh? Oh, awesome, but didn't know. So the fact that they're basically giving people 6 months notice, the only thing I don't like is I guess the PC system requirements haven't been posted either. My point is, I hope they post the requirements, say, in the next 2 to 3 months. At least if you're a crazy gamer like me, you will literally prepare yourself. You'll clear your schedule. You'll make your backlog. Maybe you'll even buy a new computer to upgrade because you're like, damn, I want to play this game on better hardware. Give people time in whatever their space is, in this case, the Mac space, to get the game. So I'm just happy. This needs to be our standard again. So even in quote unquote the heyday of Mac gaming, whether you want to call it the 90s or the early 2000s, or arguably sort of the mid 2010 through 2015s, which was more hit and miss, but still had a lot of great stuff. There wasn't a lot of this way announce in advance stuff. It was
very much surprise.
It was very surprise. Or Feral or Aspire would do it 1 week to a month in advance, depending. Yeah. Honestly, most of the time it was 1 to 2 weeks. Yeah. Unless you happen to be a journalist at the time, I would get advance previews. So, I know it's coming in a year or something. But the literal public announcement was 1 or 2 weeks or something, or even same day or whatever. So I'm hoping this becomes the standard, the same way it is with the rest of the game industry. The game is coming in 6 months or 12 months. You can pre-order it if you want. There's a discussion on pre-orders we can have in a moment. But this is what I want to see in Mac gaming. Whether it's big games, smaller games, announce they're coming, give people time, or get them hyped up or whatever if you want through trailers, and they can jump in. Once again, it's important, if you're the kind of gamer who wants to join the online discussion, whether it's social media or Discords or forums or whatever, you can now take part, because guess what? It's coming out the same day on Mac or PC or console, whatever. You can all chat about it and get excited together. Not my buddies are getting it, but I'm not going to get it for 3 to 6 months or a year later in some cases, Mac ports have been delayed too. So this is just you may not be that kind of gamer, but I think it's important for the health of Mac gaming, broadly speaking, all around, this becomes the standard. You may not.
There's also a big point there to be made about multiplayer games and the social experience of things. And, can you expect to play specific games with your friends when it comes out? If it's a single player game, that aspect is, of course, not as important. But if, something like Fortnite is a really massive experience for a lot of people who play that together and have online, social events around it and stuff. And when that was on Mac, that was, a thing that people could rally around and play together. You could have a party where people come over and you all play that together or something. And I think losing the big social experience is bad for Mac gaming. But on the other hand, knowing the social experiences are in the roadmap can allow people, to band up against that together and go we're going to play that together when it comes out. And it's fun.
It is great. Even if it's not a strictly multiplayer game, playing single player games in parallel with friends or whoever maybe your gaming circle or community is also fun, because you can be I played this mission as Naue, the Shinobi, and I did it like this, and I was a samurai, or I had this upgrade versus that one, and I did this cool thing with the grappling hook, and I crawled through the grass and stabbed this guy. You can. It's just fun to chat about. Did you do this mission yet? It was awesome, or whatever.
Which also hurts the thing where you don't have simultaneous releases. If the Mac version comes out 6 months after, then you're sitting there and all your PC friends have already completed, and you're remember that thing when and they just sit there Not really. That was quite a while
Yeah,
ago.
yeah. That was kind of my issue with Divinity: Original Sin 2. The Mac release was like a year and a half later or something. It's like, what are you doing, man?
Hmm.
Like, bro. Of course, that was like a weird sandwich because Divinity 1 had Mac beta support and Baldur's Gate 3 had beta support or early access
Hmm.
support. So Divinity 2 was like this weird anomaly where it didn't happen. But yeah, so I think it's really cool. I've been doing that with Cyberpunk. A buddy and I've been playing it sort of roughly at the same time, and we're like, "Oh, did you do that cool story mission? Yeah, no. Did you meet this,
Hmm.
guy in the alley in the side quest and this thing happens? Oh no, I don't want to. I resolved it this way. I know I'm building that way. Like it's just fun. Honestly,
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes we even
definitely.
hang out on Discord and play Cyberpunk at the same time and just chill. It's just
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, so I think it's a really good for Mac. It's a really good sign for Mac gaming, and I hope it continues, and I hope
Hmm.
more publishers do it. I think so far, obviously, stuff like Resident Evil is a big IP, and that's been coming to the Mac. Hideo Kojima, I believe, and Death Stranding is a weird but large IP, then coming to the Mac, promised to be coming. But Ubisoft is a big. They're a big fish in the gaming space. They're not like
Hmm.
there are big fish in the gaming space, but like they're individual. I kind of think of Death Stranding as kind of like its own individual
Hmm.
thing. Ubisoft is big. They publish a
Hmm.
lot of different games and a lot of things in development. They have a lot of spinning plates. So, I hope Shadows does well because this means maybe we see the next Division game on the Mac. Maybe we see the next Far Cry game on the Mac. They do a bunch of racing games, I think, as well. And they do all kinds of stuff I don't even know or can't think of right now. Like
Hmm.
they could start pushing these games out and the ports are good and they're same day releases and they run well in silicon. It's like hallelujah. Like,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah. I do fear that the Mac App Store exclusivity might hurt the sales and make that worse. But on the other hand, if it were on Steam, I would fear the situation where someone who has both a Mac and a PC buy it on the PC, start playing it there, and then they also get enjoyment out of having it on the Mac, and they're super happy about it. But when Ubisoft looks at the sales statistics, they see that as a PC
Right.
sale. Um,
Right.
so yeah,
Yeah.
there's some conflict there.
It is. I
Um,
agree. I did mention earlier maybe it's the way to go, but it's true. It's also the quote unquote
mhm.
hardcore gamers or whatever you want to call them. Um, usually don't like to buy stuff on the Mac App Store, but maybe in 6 months from now, I guess we'll see the state of the Mac App Store. Maybe it makes
Mm.
sense. It isn't a multiplayer game that I know of, so you don't have to worry about weird multiplayer Mac App Store stuff, which has always kind of been an issue.
I think they've loosened the
So
rules a bit on that anyway, so it should
yeah,
be
yeah,
better
which
in the
maybe it's
future. But
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's huge news, and I just hope it continues. And in theory, the port is good. From what we've discussed before, the Mirage performance on iOS is pretty good, right? So if they,
I mean, as far as I can tell, it should perform well. Um, but I've
yeah,
no experience with it.
yeah. So of course, yeah, we can't guarantee it, but all signs, basically everything's looking good, and there's no real reason to be skeptical or doubt it. Like, it's going to be a trash port or whatever. Like, they're bothering to invest in the port and the marketing and announce a same day release and all this stuff for macOS. Like,
Yeah.
that's not a foolproof sign because there are companies in the past who have done that and the port is trash, and it's like, then why'd you bother?
Hmm.
why, why'd
Borderlands
you need?
3, as you mentioned earlier, was
Yeah,
pretty.
or
Yeah.
even like lazy console to PC ports, even if they didn't make it to Mac. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, you made the port, but why'd you put like no effort into it?
Yeah.
The optimization's terrible and it stutters and there's no control, like can't remap the keys. It's like, what's even happening? So,
Hmm.
honestly, okay, there's things to say about Ubisoft. Are they the best company in the world? No. Are they like evil EA, so to speak? No. I think they're more in the middle. I think they make some good games. I do think they make too many games, but that's like commercial capitalism, gaming, entertainment stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but they seem to be saying and doing the right things with Shadows. Personally, I don't kind of get into gaming politics, like, oh, what's Ubisoft's culture and who's running it and who's making the game, and like, I don't really care. Like, are they going to make a good game? I see some comments like, oh, boycott Ubisoft, don't pre-order, but I do
Hmm.
think, okay, let's talk about pre-orders a bit. And I've been yakking. So, what are your thoughts on pre-ordering, whether it's in general or this game specifically?
Right. So I'll speak in general terms, but because it's the same for this game, right? So I think as we talked about announcing things in advance, I don't have an issue with that, of course. And I think if you are going to announce it, it's great to announce it for all the platforms you plan to support all at once, of course. Well, I mean, there's some exceptions to that. If you're like developing the game and your primary platform is going to be Windows, and you know for a fact that maybe you'll do a Linux release 2 years later, then you can hold on announcing that until you know for a fact, and it's a bit later. But side note, I don't think pre-orders make sense for software products. At least not in the sense where it's like a pre-order where you pay money, you have pre-ordered. Like if it's a pre-order kind of deal where you sign up to get notified when you're ready to buy it or something when it's out. That's not really a pre-order, but I think that's fine.
A launch day notification, I believe it is.
Yeah, something like that. That's cool. But I don't think it makes sense to do pre-orders much more than at most like a day before or something, because with physical products, the idea of a pre-order makes sense because they have to manufacture the product. They have to know how many to manufacture in advance, get shipping ready, get storage ready, all that sort of stuff. Like physically storing the product somewhere in a warehouse or whatever. Like they need to have an idea of how many they need to produce, especially if they're a company that doesn't have capacity to just produce 1 billion and hope it goes well, right?
Right.
But with software products, you can infinitely duplicated, and there's no extra cost to the company for shipping you a copy versus shipping 1 million copies or one or whatever. So the the pre-order thing doesn't necessarily make sense from a manufacturing or shipping or corporate perspective. So the only real reason companies would want you to pre-order something is so that they get your money in their hands immediately and can sort of put that into the budget and go, okay, we have that money secured, and it doesn't matter if reviews come out a week early and they absolutely tank because we already have your money or something.
Right.
And they can, put that money to work immediately instead of waiting on it and all that just stuff. So from the corporation's perspective, it's a pure win for no downside. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to manufacture an extra product. They just get your money early and there's nothing to it. From the customer's perspective, what do you really win? Like, it's a software product. You don't have to wait for shipping if you get it day one or an hour before, and it can preload on your machine or something. Like, maybe it can preload when you pre-order it, but you can do that at an hour before. You can do that a day before. It doesn't really matter as long as you're capable of pushing a button on your computer. And if you don't have that time the day before, an hour before, anyway, do you have time to play it, or does it matter? Like, you can choose the time frame yourself at least, right? Pre-ordering months in advance, what do you get out of that as a customer? I don't really see any benefit to you. I only see benefit to the company. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, mostly, there's two things that come to my mind. Obviously, they always incentivize you with the pre-order, like, get this cool outfit or this special weapon or this extra mission or whatever the heck they always throw in stuff.
Okay, we can talk about that one in a minute, but I would say often I think that actually makes the experience worse, but go on with what you were saying.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying, like, that's
okay, fair enough.
If you want to talk about it, presumably objective based reasoning why a customer might want it. The only sort of reason I could think pre-orders would really matter to the company is maybe with a multiplayer game, like a true multiplayer game, not just like a co-op game, like something PvP or PvE or whatever. And it's like, maybe, especially if you're inexperienced, maybe you could gauge kind of player load or something, like, there's so many people have already bought the game or something. And because how many times have we heard, whether even from AAA or indie, like, your game launches and the servers tank from like player demand. I don't know if anyone bothers to look at that, but that's the only sort of thing I could think of where it might be useful.
Yeah, I would accept that as an argument if games that have massive pre-orders also always perform really well on the server side. But yeah, as you say, we've seen that quite a few times from massive AAA companies.
It's kind of weak, I think, but it's like, well, that would make sense, but it doesn't seem like they actually act on that data if they have it.
Exactly. It would make sense in theory, but yeah.
Yeah, in theory, it's the theory. I agree.
But
it's like massively weighted to the publisher developer side, like in terms of favor. Yeah.
With the pre-order bonuses, I'll say do you only get those if you pre-order months in advance, or do you get it if you pre-order an hour in advance? Because even then,
anytime, exactly.
Yeah, so you
1
can just
second before it releases, and you could get it.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you really do want it, I encourage you to wait until close to the release date, because reviewers will often publish reviews before release, and you can get a sense if this is even worth it. And of course, you can look at your own financial situation in case something happens, in the meantime. If you pre-order 6 months in advance and your life situation drastically changes in the meantime, that $70 the game cost might mean something different to you at that time. So keep it until you know you can spend it, right? But also with respect to those pre-order bonuses, like if you get an extra weapon and it has mechanical differences, are you playing a balanced game or is everyone else playing a balanced game? Which is it? Because it can't be both. Well, maybe it can, but then the weapon you get is basically identical mechanically to the weapons that are already there or something, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah.
And if it,
go ahead.
If it's cosmetic, and especially true in multiplayer games, but also kind of true in single player games, then you might be sitting there going like, ooh, I get this really cool thing that will make me look super unique. And then you load up the multiplayer map and everyone is wearing it because so many people pre-ordered it. And you're sitting there with the thing that's supposed to make you feel unique, but in actuality, it makes you feel more generic because you're wearing the same thing everyone else is wearing. And all the people who didn't pre-order it are wearing cool other gear that they've just naturally gathered throughout the game. Right. But you're sitting there going like, well, I got this as a bonus. I kind of feel like I should be using it because like exactly. I got the pre-order, so I should be using this thing. I don't know.
I agree. Yeah, there. I can't think of an example off the top of my head. There have been some pre-orders have been like cool because like I'm buying the game anyway, and I don't normally pre-order a game that far in advance. It'll usually be like a few weeks. Or even like a week or something. Because I basically, like you said, I wait because maybe it's finances. Depending on how you do your finances, it could make more sense to spend the money earlier, but that's debatable and that's up to you. We're not here to like talk about managing your finances, but be responsible, whatever the case. It's a $70 game plus tax usually. And that's just for the base edition. They have like multiple editions. I don't know if the Mac App Store has those multiple editions. At least Ubisoft Connect does and whatever. Because the game is a season pass. And to be fair, Valhalla had exceptional DLC, like extremely good. So I think I'm not a fan of...
A season pass is basically also just a pre-order on DLC.
Yes, correct. Here's the thing, like, this is just like general... Maybe you're new to Assassin's Creed or new to like getting into big AAA games. Well, if you're new, you should either check out prior games, reviews, or you should wait for reviews of this game. So I have multiple things going for me. One, I'm already a fan of the games. Two, I'm a huge fan of Japanese stuff. So this is like, I'm all over this, basically. Do I want to pay $70 for it? No. Do I kind of want to pre-order it on the Mac App Store just to support Mac gaming? Kind of. But am I realistically going to play the whole thing on my Mac? Probably not. Unless I do it through GeForce Now or something. I am actually considering selling my PC and just using GeForce Now for some stuff. So, my physical PC, we'll see about that. But, if more and more cool games get released on a Mac like this, it incentivizes me, maybe I can get an M3, M3 machine or an M4 machine to play like the late, like that's what I used to do. I used to buy the latest, greatest juiced up iMac so it could play the awesome games for the next like 3 to 5 years or whatever. So this becomes more of a thing, It's like, get this PC out of here. Give me my Mac stuff back.
Sure.
I would happily do that. So,
do you know if the Mac App Store does the thing where if you pre-order it, you can like download it in advance and just it only decrypts after release?
That is an excellent question that I do not know the answer to.
Right, because that's like the only thing I can see as a consumer advantage, really, to pre-ordering a bit in advance.
I'm peeking at the App Store page right now. I'm wondering if
the App Store page as it is right now says the file size of the game is like in the kilobytes, so it wouldn't be ready yet.
Yeah, you said it was like 147 or something funny.
Yeah, something like that. I think they just like uploaded a bit of metadata, and that's what the App Store is showing.
Oh yeah, okay. Compatibility is here. Requires macOS 14.4 or later, and a Mac with Apple M1 chip or later. So it is.
Oh, it does say M1. Right, that's where I got it from then.
Yeah. Interesting. So it does have that old compatibility thing. Language English, developer Ubisoft, category action, age 17 plus. Yeah, the game's violent. It's not like adult stuff. Like it's usually just violence in the games, maybe a little language. Right. So about Assassin's Creed, like if you have the money, and you think you'd like the game, I mean, probably get it. I have a pretty good handle on the kind of games I've like, having played so many games and played these kind of games before. It's like I know I'm going to enjoy the game, especially as the Shinobi. Maybe the Samurai Guy is super cool too, who knows? But I know I'll enjoy the stealth side.
Mm.
But yeah, the safest thing if you're not sure, just wait for reviews or wait for a friend to get it or whatever. Watch them
Yep.
play or stream it or talk to about it or whatever. That's always
Yep.
the safest thing. Otherwise, if you got the money and you really want the game, you might as well pre-order it, a day in advance or a week in advance. Kind of get yourself hyped up. Maybe there's a preload. I don't know if there is on the Mac App Store. Maybe there is.
If there is a preload, then I definitely think it makes sense to download it, depending on your internet connection as well, of course.
Right.
Like an hour a day, it's maybe 2 days, whatever, however slow your internet might be in advance or whatever, right? Yeah.
Right.
Or however slow the Mac App Store decides to be, because on my network, the bottleneck is not my network speed; it's the Mac App Store. It is slow.
Right. Honestly, I think the last game I played on the Mac App Store was Max Payne 3 in like 10 years ago.
yeah. Which, if I remember, had a tendency to crash.
Oh yeah, crash. I got halfway through the game and it deleted all my saves, and I had to start over. I was like, so I mean, honestly, the game was really fun, and I'm a huge Max Payne fan. It was still like crappy and lame, but at least the game was really fun, and I just kind of like speed played. I think I maybe dropped it to easy or something to kind of like speed play and get back up to where I was, and switch it back to normal or hard or whatever. It was very buggy, and I think I also played XCOM Declassified, but I did that for a review. I didn't literally buy it. Someone gave me a key back then, and what else? There was a third game I guess it was Call of Duty Black Ops back in the day. Again, Aspire giving me
right, yeah.
Those are the only 3 games I've ever bought and played on the Mac App Store or gotten on the Mac App Store. So kind of funny. Oh,
I think basically the only bigger game I got from the Mac App Store so far has been Civilization 5, I think. And then I found out that it was at a massive detriment to the Steam version, where it didn't... So it kind of supported mods, but you had to edit the config file, and the Steam version just supported mods out of the gate and all these things. And
exactly.
I just got it from Steam in the future.
Yeah, I do think as far as like the kind of games that are suited to the Mac App Store, meaning... you don't care about mods, you don't care about multiplayer. Assassin's Creed is great because it doesn't have multiplayer, it doesn't have mods, even on the PC side or whatever. It's just not there. So as far as that goes, I think it's excellent to play on the Mac App Store or to purchase it. And if you want, you can still throw an alias into Steam and open it through Steam and kind of like have that overlay and chat to friends while you're playing or whatever the heck, if you want. I think I might track your time if you alias it. I kind of forget.
I think it does. I think it does.
Yeah. When so it's like you can kind of pseudo Steam it, even if your Mac App Store it. So, I think as far as the conditions go, it's ideal for the Mac App Store. Beyond like, are people going to bother? Do people, in this economy, $70 is a lot, but I do think now I grumble at $70 games because I'm like, I remember when AAA games were 50 and going up to 60 was a bummer, and now they're 70. But costs are up around the world, blah blah blah. I'm not going to get into all that, but it's worth a mention. I do think a game of this size is worth its cost, though. I will say that. I do think some games are not worth their price tag. Obviously, that's subjective, but I mean, the amount of content the game has, like substantial content, is pretty dang big. Like, a lot.
I really don't mind paying the Danish equivalent of $70 under one condition. The game is not allowed to have, like, buy a coin purse for $2, buy XP boosters for $3. If it has that, I do not want to pay $70 for it. But if it's free of that sort of thing, I don't mind. It's fine.
Unfortunately, Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Valhalla had that stuff. There were XP and gold boosters for like $5 or $10.
Yeah.
I think it's dumb. I hope it's not on the game. Frankly, it probably will be. They had cosmetic sets in at least Valhalla, I think Odyssey as well. Honestly, some of them were really cool. And if people want to spend their money on like super cool cosmetic stuff, I don't have an issue with that, because I don't know if I guess I don't recall if they actually gave you like gameplay bonuses, Frank, because I never bought any of them. But just looking at them in the store, they weren't like low effort cash grabs. They were like intricately designed, really cool outfits. So it's like, okay, people want to spend their money, but I still wish they weren't there because I don't like in-game stores. But
sure, and like especially see that if they were like developed after the game, after there was massive interest in it, and they thought, okay, let's make some more stuff for it, and they spent extra time, effort, if development cost making it. But I've been playing games for a long time, and the games I played back in the day, like especially 2004, 5, 6, before DLC was really that big a thing, they had all that cosmetic stuff just in the game. I could just choose a new thing.
Yeah. So,
and of course, there is still stuff that ship with the game, but like, why are they taking like 30% of it and separating it out for extra purchases? And if the game price is already going up anyway, then all of this is extra game price on top of it. If you want the equivalent of the package from back in the day.
I don't love it. I do think Ubisoft is decent. I won't call them good in this regard, but they're at least decent. Like, they're not like crazy money grubbers. I mean, some people could argue that. I'm sure, but like by that I mean the game itself has a lot of progression, it has a lot of outfits, has a lot of cool stuff. Previous Assassin's Creed games, I assume.
Yeah, it's not scraping the bottom of what you can feasibly call a game.
Like bottom of the barrel. I can't think of a game off the top of my head, but I have played them where it's like super bare bones, and like you said, everything's like, oh, pay us more money for the rest of the game. It doesn't feel like that. I do think there is still too much paid stuff, even if it's cosmetic. I think it's excessive, but they are at least nicely designed. I'll give them that. Like, they're pretty, or they're cool, or they're badass, or beautiful, or whatever it is, because you can, in the previous games, you could pick male or female characters. So this
I've seen some situations where one of the paid cosmetic upgrades is a color swap of something that's already in the game. I can't remember off the top of my head what games, but I've seen that. It's just like, oh my god, that's ridiculous.
Thinking of a game like Warhammer 40k Darktide, not a Mac game, but a PC game, AA game, not indie or AAA. It's firmly AA game, by Fat Shark, who also did Vermintide and stuff. They did this. The game was released way too early. It felt like an early access game. It was like fun but mega incomplete. And then they spent a bunch of time releasing a cosmetic cash store, like for real money, and everything in all the items were just color swapped stuff in the base game. They looked terrible. They looked lame. And you're like, why are you putting this out when we're all sitting here waiting for you to actually finish the game? It was like a huge backlash. And then they actually had to release a post, like a new Steam news post, like, "Oh, we're sorry. We're gonna put all more work on hold and actually work on the game." We're like, "Yeah, no shit. Like, what are you doing?"
The Star Citizen developers caught some flack for doing a similar thing, where very early on they just like released super expensive ships to buy, and it's just like, you can fall through the floor in half of this game. Right. The geometry isn't even solid.
So it feels bad when it's like that. So the Assassin's Creed games, honestly, historically, they're not that buggy. The performance is usually pretty good. It's not like the latest Elder Scrolls where it's like it's just like so buggy, or Fallout. It's just like it's just memed. It's so buggy. It's gone beyond bad to being like good. It's like that's like the level those games reach. Like, everyone just expects it and like deals with the jank. Honestly, the Assassin's Creed games, from my experience, and I played them at launch a few times, at least on PC. I can't speak of the Mac experience yet, but I'm hoping it's reasonably equivalent. Pretty dang good. Good performance, good support, blah blah blah. So that's what I mean by Ubisoft is like decent. I'm sure there's some stuff to complain about them. We've already brought up some points. Maybe there's some points we missed, whatever. But I think overall, they provide. Are they expensive? Yes. Do they have a lot of extra stuff you can buy with the games? Yes. But I think they provide a very hefty core product, at least as far as Assassin's Creed goes. Can't really speak to Far Cry and some of their other franchises. I haven't really gotten into them. I think the last Far Cry I played was like Far Cry 2 a very long time ago. But Assassin's Creed are a very big package, at least these ones. There are smaller ones like Mirage and Rogue and whatever. I haven't played all those, but these are huge games you can sink 100, 200 hours into if you wanted. Not for a single playthrough, but like doing extra stuff. So probably worth the price, probably a good time. Has my vote, but if you're not sure, always just wait for the reviews, wait to watch it on YouTube and Twitch and whatever, and check it out. So.
I'm probably personally going to wait a bit, though I probably will get it, but mostly I think I'll wait on the back of still having some other games in the queue that I want to play first, that I think will take longer than November to finish, probably a bit into next year, but also because I kind of have Like the only Apple Silicon Macs I have right now are my work laptop with an M1 Pro and my laptop with an M1 Max. I'm still using an Intel iMac as my primary machine for home use.
Right.
And it is Apple Silicon only, but I have plans of acquiring a Mac Studio when M4 Max or maybe M5 Max, depending on timeline, comes out. And I would want to play it on that probably. So, yeah.
Yeah. My ideal scenario is I could somehow get a key, like for the show, though we're minor and, I'm not an official game journalist anymore the way I used to be. I'll try. It's probably unlikely. You probably wouldn't get a response, but you never know, because I don't really want to buy it on the Mac App Store and then also buy it like on the PC. That would, I want to support the Mac side, but I also don't want to spend $140 on a game. It's already 770 times 2, So we'll kind of see how that develops, but I'll certainly do my best, or maybe I'll just bite the bullet and do it.
And you also have to get it on Amazon Luna.
I would just rather not. Oh God, I hate Luna.
Yeah,
I tried the beta. It was awful. And NVIDIA GeForce Now is the only thing to bother with if you're going to stream.
Yeah, I just think it's funny because if you look at the marketing material for Shadows, Assassin's Creed, everywhere it's like coming to PlayStation, Xbox, Mac, PC, and Luna.
Exactly.
I didn't know what Luna was when I read that. I was, what is Amazon Luna? I had to sit there and Google it for a while. It was, a streaming service thing.
Exactly. No, I only knew about it because I probably read it somewhere and I signed up to trial it, and I tried it 10 or 20 minutes. It was super lame.
They have a lot of mobile kind of games, right? And then just a lot of Ubisoft stuff in there as well. And it's very weird.
Weirdly, almost like Mac App Story, like mobile gamey, but then also randomly there was big games in there. The interface was bad and the quality was poor, and I don't really know when you actually streamed it. And again, I have a very good connection. It wasn't that, so the whole thing was just awkward. I don't know. Amazon, I think much like Google, I don't think it's going to survive. Much like Google's Stadia, whatever, didn't make it. It's just
also.
Just
I read into it a bit.
You don't really know what you're doing. Just give it up. Stick with what
I read a bit about it, and it runs on Amazon Web Services instances with Windows Server. So this is just box standard Windows, where the Stadia thing was running some custom Linux things, so developers had to develop explicitly for it. So that is in their favor, that it's just standard Windows developers have already made for that. But it's running on NVIDIA's T4 chips, which is a Quadro workstation class GPU, but it's like the same performance tier as AMD's 6600 or 6700 or something like that. It's not that powerful for a PC graphics card. It's about the same level of performance as my iMac, which is from 2020, and it's just if you're doing a game streaming service, you're gonna want to offer really the higher tier performance for it, because you're already also dealing with the latency back and forth, right? So any latency on the local render is going to be a lot worse than it would be if you were running it locally. And it's a weird system. I don't want to get too much into that tangent. It's weird.
No, basically Luna isn't good if you're going to bother with investigating a streaming service, although I've gushed about GeForce Now for ages now on the show, and I think even a whole episode was kind of dedicated to it at one point with a review.
Yeah.
It's just even better than ever. Honestly, now it supports 4K ultra wide. It supports surround sound. It's really good with its features. It has 3 or 4 tiers, including a free one. You can pay by the month, by the day now. You can pay 6-month blocks, I think 1-year blocks. It's very flexible, super high quality, customizable, supports most big games. All of Ubisoft stuff's in there, unless something weird happens. Shadows will be on there. Valhalla is, Odyssey is, they're all there. All the Ubisoft stuff is. Division is there, and Far Cry's. I would be shocked if it didn't come out on GeForce Now for Shadows. So, if you want to stream it, or you think you have an Intel Mac, or you have a low-end Silicon that you feel wouldn't run Shadows, probably consider buying it. Play it on GeForce Now. I just turned a board game friend onto it because I finally got him to play Cyberpunk. We had actually played a Cyberpunk board game, like an area control game, and he saw me playing Cyberpunk on Steam, or I told him I was, and he's like, I finally bought it, trying to get into it. and he has a really low spec PC, like Mega Potato, literally below the minimum spec to run the game. And and then he's like, and then he was sending me screenshots like of his FPS tests and everything, which is frankly embarrassing. He's like, I'm willing to put up with that. I'm like, well, if you've got the internet for it, you can check out GeForce Now. It's even got a free thing and everything. And then like a day later, he's like, yeah, I just went to GeForce Now. It's been great, you know? So, yeah, I can't really recommend it enough.
Yeah.
Basically. But if you got the machine and you got the money, if possible, can support it on the Mac App Store because, you know, we got to once again, got to be responsible. But if you can afford it and manage it and want to, you know, it sends a message to Ubisoft and arguably Apple, not arguably, and to Apple that, hey, you know, AAA Mac gaming can succeed on the Mac, or people will buy it or whatever and play it and yada yada yada, and then we'll get more of it. So, yeah,
definitely, really hoping it's gonna lead to more.
There are other things we could talk about, but they're kind of worth their own show. But just to like acknowledge they're going on, they're having a lot of layoffs in the industry lately. Not necessarily like Mac gaming, but like gaming studios in general. Lots of people have lost their jobs. Unfortunate.
A lot of that was Microsoft buying a bunch of studios, then laying off a bunch of people.
Studios, but there were some others, and I think there's been more since we talked about it a bit on Discord chat.
Yeah.
Debatably, some of it's like post-COVID bloat where people grew too big. Unfortunately, some of it's just like the industry's pretty ruthless right now. And even if you make a good game like Hi-Fi Rush, that studio, Tango Works Software or something, they were even about to propose a sequel and they just got axed kind of out of nowhere. Arcane, I think Lion, basically the guys behind Dishonored, but the disastrous Redfall, they got canned. Well, it's like kind of unsurprising. They released the flop to rule all flops, basically. It's like beyond like a flop. It's like shockingly, outrageously bad. There's like 30 people playing it or something right now on Steam. I think it was like 35, maybe even less. And who knows about consoles. So they've made good games before, but you know, some studios can absorb it. Like for example, I think if BioWare flops either on Dragon Age or the next Mass Effect, I think they're canned. Yeah. I don't think they get the grace to keep. I think one of them has to be a major hit, or maybe even both. Possibly both have to be a major hit, or they might get the axe. Like,
yeah, I
some
could definitely
studios
see that,
kind of have enough of a pedigree and enough of like a quality backlog, like they could suffer a Anthem was, you know, famous, but it wasn't like a mega flop. It just like to the level of like Redfall, it just wasn't very good and was kind of a confused game. But it definitely flopped, you know, and it got cut and there was no Anthem 2.0 and everything. So it's just something to think about, and kind of wanted to shout out basically all the devs out there who lost their jobs. It's too bad. Sorry. I doubt you're listening to this, but nonetheless, just kind of like a gaming awareness thing in the gaming space. Like, it's too bad. And honestly, we're probably going to see more of it. We've already seen a bunch of it last year. And we're probably going to keep seeing more of it. And, you know, even releasing a good game, unfortunately, may not save you, you know? Some of these big, because so many companies have been gobbled up by so many other companies, whether it's Microsoft or Embracer or Activision, blah, blah, blah. They have Bethesda, or ZeniMax owns bazillions of things, including Bethesda, and Bethesda owns zillions of things, and on it goes.
And they are owned by Microsoft now.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, all this stuff, inevitably people are going to consolidate. It's the unfortunate, like, chasing the bottom line and shareholder thing and whatever, but there's so many games being made. The unfortunate reality is only some of them are great, some of them are okay, or maybe if they're great, they just got overlooked because they were all released at the same time and it was a scramble, and, you know, these two win and these two lose or whatever. And maybe it's you know, it's maybe a bit of a shaky time in the industry, and that's too bad. And you know, I feel bad about that because, you know, I want more devs. I want more good games. It means more options for me, the gamer, to consider and have a good time with and talk about and whatever. So that's too bad. Just wanted to kind of shout it out and raise a little awareness about it. Not like deep dive it or anything, but just kind of
another quick little mention I also want to make is that I don't know exactly when this happened. It's quite a while ago at this point, like a month or two or something. But it's only starting to really have big effects now. Apple released some restrictions on emulators on their various app stores. And since then, you know, we've started getting emulators for Nintendo 64, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, PlayStation 1, all of RetroArch for Sega Genesis. There's a bunch of emulators now available on iPhone, iPad, and even Apple TV. And I think it's super cool that they're coming to Apple TV because you get opportunities to play admittedly old games, but old great games on the TV platform with game controller support and all that jazz. And it's not going to give you the rush of playing the latest AAA game, but there's some great stuff that can now be played that couldn't before.
Nice. Yeah, that's good too. There was a couple other random tidbits of news. Steam now has a new thing that differentiates between early access and I think now it's called pre-order or something, or early order, something like that. I forget. It was like 3 weeks ago, so I kind of forget. Basically, they're designating. There's a new category you can actually like put your game in as when it's literally like just a pre-order versus early access, because sometimes there was weird conflicts or something. So that's just, better clarity and whatever for gamers and devs. And I think there was one more thing. There was something about I guess I don't know. I guess I didn't follow up. This was late April. Non-compete clauses in the gaming industry might be banned. It's being like investigated by the FTC, which is Federal Trade Commission, I guess. Yeah, so apparently it's really common in the gaming industry to have non-compete clauses, like bad ones, like unfavorable to the massively favoring the companies and very unfavorable to the employee or employees. And apparently those could be banned in the gaming industry. I don't know if they're banned otherwise. I'm not like super knowledgeable about all that stuff. Just there's like these just nice little things other than I guess the layoffs. There's always good with the bad. Like there was some positives in the gaming space and there's negatives and all that jazz, but yeah, cool.
I mean, there's definitely cases where non-complete clauses make sense, but if you've designed a monster for Bethesda, it doesn't make sense that you can't go and design a monster for, someone else.
Apparently, I don't know all the like legal jargon or whatever, but apparently they were like kind of draconian and like too like over the top, like too strict, like unreasonable.
I mean, I also don't know the specifics here. It's just, but I can definitely see that could be a good improvement.
Yeah, that was the report anyway. It was a PC Gamer and I think IGN thing. So, like some developers are celebrating, hoping it would go away because it means just better, talent can go where it can go or make what it should make, just like what you're saying. Like if you're good at, designing or developing or creating or whatever it is.
Yeah, and especially as you mentioned in the tidbit before, if we're going to have massive layoffs, then at some point those developers might have their skills be needed again if there's another big rush
Exactly. So that's it for today's episode. Next is episode 50. We'll see if we can't get a guest on, or more of the casting. I was going to say casting crew. More of
depending on timing. Next episode might be like just before or just after WWDC as well. So
exactly. Yeah, it should be a fun episode in any case. But that is it for today. Hopefully, once again, just things looking up for Mac Gaming, and check out stuff about Assassin's Creed Shadows. If you want to play it on your Mac, so that'll be cool.
Definitely.
And I guess if you're still on Intel, maybe it's time to buy a Silicon so you can play AC Shadows. Yeah. All right. Thanks for being here, Casper. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Bye-bye.